Good morning. Good morning. Let me apologize for my tardiness. Woo. It's still a beautiful Monday morning. The life of a therapist. Sometimes I plan things and I am not in control of what happens in my day. Good morning. Welcome to Dr. M's table. Good morning. We're going to be talking about homeschool basics. Homeschool 101 Basics. Good morning. Gonna wait a few seconds. Hi. Hey, doctor. How are you? Oh, okay. I will make it public, Laura. Thank you for telling me that. Hey, Laura. I'm sorry I didn't say hello. Okay, I think I made it public so you can share it. Great. All right. We'll get started in 1 more minute. I'll give you a chance to invite your friends and share. I have to get used to saying that. Hit the share button. Hit the share button. We're going to talk about homeschool basics. Homeschool basics, you know. Good morning. Good morning, Mother. Homeschool basics. Okay. Good morning, good people. I see Miss Meek on. I see you, Miss Milanese. Good morning to you, Mr. Moore. Good morning, Cooper. Mother Fontaine, good morning. Hey, Keisha Alabas, good morning. Hey, good morning from the beautiful state of Georgia. Hey, Keisha, how are you? Hey, Miss Jones, good morning to you. Hey, Ron Harp, good morning. Good morning. So for those of you who do not know, I am Dr. Miranda Pearson, and I am a licensed professional counselor, AKA psychotherapist. I have a private practice in Johnston County, North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina. And I see clients from the age of 5 to 105. I see clients with all types of issues. It can range from childhood issues of like anger management, conflict resolution. It could range from trauma or sexual issues, sexual trauma. I see couples. I love marriage counseling. I see couples. I do distance therapy. I do inner healing and deliverance. I do women's issues. I love to talk about remarriage. Those who have married again after having gone through a divorce and you know what that's like. So I'm a psychotherapist. I started my career, I want to say as a teacher, so I don't want to go all the way back, but after college, I started banking. And banking was, you know, banking. It was go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work, come home. And I remember having a conversation with my mom. You know, I'm in my early 20s, and I say to her, I cannot imagine doing this every day until I'm 65, or, you know, however the age was back in those days to retire. And my mom was saying to me, well, why don't you move to Raleigh? So I cashed in my retirement. I would not suggest anybody do that today, but I cashed in my retirement and I packed up my bags and I moved from Virginia to North Carolina in hopes of moving to Raleigh, getting a job in banking because that's what I knew. Um, Having just graduated from Radford University, probably a little under 3 years prior, I got a job at First Virginia Bank as a management trainee. So as a management trainee, you learn all aspects of banking. And then I got a job as the supervisor of the proof department. Did not like it. And so that's why I moved to North Carolina to do something different. So my mom, having this great prophetic insight, has always shared with me that she thought I should be a teacher, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous because I did not like children. When I went to college, my major was education until I did my student teaching in a middle school and absolutely hated it and changed my major to straight English. So I was an English major in banking with the hopes of being one day a lawyer. Okay. Fast forward, I moved to North Carolina and could not find a job at all in banking. And so after 3 months on my mom's couch, I decided to try my luck at the local high school, which was Goldsboro High School, and interviewed with a principal named Gerald Whitley and got an interim position being an interim substitute teacher for a teacher that was going out on maternity leave. And then after Christmas, being offered a full-time position in the English department, with the premise or the guarantee that I would go back to school to get my teaching certification. I went back to get my teaching certification and had the best job ever. I know you've heard me say this several times, as an English teacher at Goldsboro High School for many years. I absolutely love teaching. What I did not love about teaching was that eventually the state would take away, I felt, this is personal, my creativity as a teacher because they want you to teach to the test. All right. So fast forward, I said all of that to let you know that I am very grounded in education. I started my career in education as being an English teacher. I moved into being a guidance counselor. I was an assistant principal, and I left public education being a district administrator of Harnett County Schools. So I spent 19 years in public education, so I'm pretty well versed in education. Now, I didn't say all that to make parents who want to homeschool feel intimidated, but I just wanted you all to know that having been on both sides, having been in public education and then now deciding to homeschool my son, I wanted to let you know, parents, if you desire to homeschool your children, you are very qualified, okay? You are very qualified as long as you have love, you have patience, and you have consistency. And don't forget endurance, okay? Love, patience, which is endurance, consistency. The consistency part is very important because you don't start homeschooling your child with all these great ideas and then you do it for like 4 days and then you just stop doing it, okay? So we do know, I haven't been in public education. I do know parents who took their kids out of school because the kid wasn't, performing up to par, and they really did not homeschool them. So I don't want you to think that if you're going to homeschool your child, you need to have consistency. You need to have done your research. You need to be well versed in your mission, your goals, and why you are homeschooling your child. All right. So I feel like I'm skipping around because I don't have a script. And if you have questions, please type it in. I'm reading your comments as I go. But if you are a parent and you have decided to homeschool your child, congratulations. You are very brave and you've made a great decision. You've made a very brave decision to formulate, to ground, and to execute your child's learning. Now, I say brave because it is very, very, very easy to get caught up in the opinions of others and to be swayed by the opinions of others. Everybody's not going to like your decision. Everybody's not going to understand your position or your decision. And people probably think you are a little cuckoo because the majority of everybody goes to public school or they go to private school or they go to a charter school. And so homeschooling is still one of those murky areas where people really don't feel like you really know what you're doing in order to make sure that your child is learning what everybody else is learning. So I wanted to take the myth out of that a little bit. I wanted to, I guess, demystify the fact that, again, with your consistency, your love, your perseverance, your endurance, patience, you can homeschool your child. Okay. Now, let's see. I have some notes. Again, I'm trying to be really good about, taking notes. One of the first things that you have to do, you must do, okay? It is imperative that you do this. You need to pray, okay? Pray. If you get the inkling to, if you get the feeling to, if you get the notion to, don't just do it. You need to pray about it first, okay? After you pray about it, you need to consult. You need to consult with people who have homeschooled before. You need to pray, consult, do your research. Do your research on what homeschooling is, if you're going to have the time and, again, the patience and the endurance to do it. The myth is that you have to not work to homeschool. That's not true. If you are the type of person who can plan your time perfectly or in a manner in which everything will flow, you can homeschool your child and everything will flow fine. You have to take into account, though, when you're talking about homeschooling your child, okay? Sometimes people homeschool for themselves, their own personal issues, biases, anger with the school system, their own personal experiences as a child in school. But you need to take into account your particular child, your child's temperance, your child's personality, your child's learning style, your child's I guess social graces, meaning, there's one type of child that you can sit in front of a computer and you can have them doing some things on the computer. And then there's another type of child that they would never get anything done on the computer and they need one-on-one construction or instruction to do construction. Okay. So you need to take all of that into consideration. So you need to pray. Okay. You need to consult and you need to do your research. All right. So after you have prayed about it and you have a release in your spirit and you have a peace that this is what God is actually saying, to do, you need to consult with someone who has done it, or you need to read articles, blogs, or Facebook pages. There are tons of, and I would start in my area. Like, for instance, there are several homeschool groups in my area. I live in Eastern North Carolina. I live in Johnston County in particular. And there are tons of homeschool groups, co-ops, parents who have been homeschooling their children. There are parents who homeschool their children until they get to the age of 7, because kindergarten is really not mandatory in the state of North Carolina. So you can homeschool your child to then and then go to public school. Or there are people who homeschool their child in segments. And so they might go to public school for elementary school, and then they decide, hey, middle school is just rough, so let me go ahead and homeschool you during middle school. And then they might allow their children to go back to public school during high school. It's entirely, again, up to you how you do that. I decided to homeschool my son actually when he was in kindergarten. Yes, in kindergarten. That sounds so crazy because he's now in 6th grade and I'm actually doing that. But in kindergarten, I knew that my child hated school. Okay. Now, because I love school and I just love it. If I could take a class every year, if I can get a degree every 4 years until I'm 99, I would do that. I love school. He did not in kindergarten. I mean, it was a struggle. And so I remember coming home one day in tears because I'm like, Lord, what am I going to do? He hates school. So I applied for my homeschool license when my son was in kindergarten. So I've had this license for years and I've never actually done anything with it because, again, society says you go to work and you put your kids, so you now not put them in daycare, so they transition over to public school because you've got to work, right? So what would I do with the kid all day long when I have to punch a 9 to 5? That just doesn't make sense. So I go to work and he goes to school. In the meantime, I mean, he's just hating school. Now, the difference, I guess, with me is that because I was in school, I was in public school, I was able to advocate for him a little differently. And I would make sure that everything that I advocated for him was being executed. If I didn't feel that it was, then I would move you from this classroom to the next, or however. I really advocated for teachers to know what his learning style is. He is not a lecture kid. You can't sit him down, crisscross applesauce, and talk for 45 minutes. Doesn't work with him. He's bored easily. He's going to start moving, and he is going to distract kids around him. I just know that. You're talking about a kid, myself, who got talking notes until I was in, I think, 6th grade. I can remember getting talking notes in school, and my mom said, if you get one more talking note, you're going to get a spanking. And I would get my aunt, who is also Miss Lark, to sign my talking note because I couldn't stop talking. Now, so in my case, I was bored because I would finish my work and just start talking to my friends beside me. And in my son's case, whether it's boredom or he didn't comprehend what was going on or whatever, it was a distraction. So, again, I've had my homeschool license since he was in kindergarten. So after you have prayed about it, after you have consulted with other people, and after you have done your research, because there's, again, different types of homeschooling. There's a whole category called unschooling, which is, I wasn't even aware of that until, probably the early part of 2019, when I started hearing parents talking about how they were purposely allowing their children to be unschooled from public school, meaning all the rules, all the regulations, all the do's, all the don'ts. They purposely allowed their children just to wander, or not wander. They allow their children to just learn on their own. So for instance, if their child loved birds, so their whole curriculum for the whole year was about birds. They counted birds in math. They did scientific stuff with the birds. They did social studies migration with the birds. They did English words with the birds. So that was unschooling. Now, coming from a public education background, I've had to do a little bit of unschooling myself because it's difficult. I am a very structured person. I mean, very structured. I'm very type A, and I like stuff so, and I believe everything, has to be this way. I want everything to fit in a box, and this is what I've had to learn. I've had to learn, can you see that? I've had to learn to think outside the box. So being a homeschool mom has really, really stretched my creativity and allowed me to think outside the box. And it has been actually very rewarding and very good. Okay? So remember this. Think outside the box, because you're not thinking about traditional public school. You're not thinking about how a child learns traditionally. You're thinking about your particular child and what's best for that child, how they learn, what you want them to learn, how you want them to be as a person, how you want them to be in society, and you're pretty much regulating who they socialize with. So, when you go to public school, you socialize with everybody, which is great. It's good because that's the real world. Nothing wrong with that. But there's some things you can't control because you're not there, right? And I'll use, for example, like the whole bullying issue. So obviously there's no bullying in my school because I'm the principal, I'm the teacher, I'm the guidance counselor. There's no bullying in my school. So you can't really control that when you go to public school. You have kids that's bullies. You have schools that have zero bullying. You have zero tolerance for bullying, but you can't really control that. But you can control that narrative if you are homeschooling. Okay, so after you have prayed, you have consulted, and you have done your research, now what do you do? So now you file what's called a notice of intent with the North Carolina Department of Non-Public Instruction. Okay, so there's two. There's the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, which used to be my boss, which used to be the governing entity for public school, is the governing entity for public schools. But you file this intent with the North Carolina Department. This is in North Carolina, whatever your state is, you file that with the non-public instruction entity, okay? The notice of intent of you operating a school comes back instantly. I want to say mine came back like within that afternoon. It was very easy. I would be cautious, very cautious, if you're naming your school that is something that you're going to be proud of. It's something that you're going to be proud to see on a transcript and on a diploma. Okay, so you don't want to name your school Tutti Frutti Baluti. Okay, you don't want your kid to have that on their transcript and on their diploma, because they may want to get into college one day, and you want the colleges to take your schooling just as seriously as public school. So be mindful what you name your school, okay? And again, the name of your school, name denotes character, okay? So our school is New Focus Enrichment Academy, and it is actually the umbrella to a whole lot of stuff that's going to be going on. But New Focus Enrichment Academy is the name of our homeschool, okay? So you want to choose a name that you're proud of, you want to see on your transcripts and your report cards. And you also want to be mindful of choosing the name, because in North Carolina, once you choose a name, you cannot change it. So North Carolina doesn't allow you, oh, well, this year we're in a different mindset, maybe we want to change the name of our homeschool. North Carolina doesn't allow that. So, we're stuck with this homeschool for years. And also in the state of North Carolina, you have to close your school. So they'll never close your school. You have to close it. So if your kids are grown, they're expecting you every year to report, your attendance. You're to keep attendance records. You're to keep immunization records. You're to keep grades, standardized testing records, but you don't have to report it. You have to keep it. But again, if you're going to close your school, you have to contact them. And again, if you want to change the name of your school, you're going to have to close that school and open up another school in that name. Okay? All right. So you file your notice of intent, and then you have to report how many students you have in your school. Now, when I started the homeschool in mid-July, we started in July, because again, I already had the name of the school. North Carolina does not let you start a homeschool in the summer. You can't start homeschool until after August the 1st. And when I say start, I mean actually filing in intent. So since I already had my license, I can year-round do school. Okay, so I actually started school for my son July 1. So we're doing 45 days on, 15 days off, 45 days on, 15 days off. And I'm gonna tell you why. When I was a teacher, that was the schedule. Okay, it was absolutely awesome as a teacher and as this for the students. I don't know, it's just me, my personal opinion. I've never been one of those teachers who gets excited about the summertime, because I was more concerned about my students retaining the information. I felt like if they were out of school for 3 months, it was too much. It was too much time. But if you could break that down into many vacations throughout the year, then they could retain the information better. So based on my son's ability, his learning style, and his teacher, we're doing 45 days on, 15 off, 45 days on, 15 off. And actually, to be perfectly honest, even the 15 days off, we're still learning, okay? We're still learning, because the structure is not as rigid as public school, okay? So getting back to how many students, there is no limit of students in your house. So as I was saying, I started school in July, And when August came along, I actually added two more children, two or three, two children, and one was on the way to my school, because in North Carolina, you can homeschool your household and one more. So in my household, there was one child. In the other household, there were two. However, because of the parent schedule and my schedule and getting the kids back and forth to my site, it wasn't going to be what was best for the children. Okay. So then the parents decided that they would homeschool their children at home, which was best for them. So that's why of when you heard me say, well, I have 5 kids in my school or 4 kids in the school and whatever, now it's just me and JP, because the schedule did not permit for the other family to come to my site. And that's fine, because you have to be mindful of that as well. So North Carolina says that there is no limit on how many kids you can homeschool in your house. So if I had 20 children, if I was the mother of 20 children, then I can homeschool all 20 kids and I can homeschool another household. But that's it. You can only homeschool 2 households of children, okay, in the state of North Carolina. All right. So what is homeschooling? Homeschooling is a non-public school consisting of 1 or 2 households of children. That's what I just said. The parent or the guardian is the director. They're the teacher. They're the guidance counselor, and they are the curriculum facilitator. So they actually determine the scope and sequence of the academic instruction. So I determine the scope and sequence of the academic instruction. Now, let me just say this. If you're looking for curriculum, oh God, there's so much out there. That's why you have to do your research, because you just can't pick something because it might not be good for your kid. There's a website called I think it's called Easy Peasy Homeschooling, something like that. Oh wow, what this mom has done, she has homeschooled like all of her kids, and I think there's more than 3. And she created this curriculum that is absolutely outstanding, but is so chock full of just stuff that my son would get lost in that. I mean, because basically what she did, and her kids were this structured that, she could wake up in the morning and she could say, okay, so you're doing this, this, and this in this book. You're doing this, 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 and this book. I mean, it's a great curriculum, but it does not work for me. And it did not work for my son. It wouldn't work for him. So that's why I say you have to do the research and know your children. You have to know what works for them. Now, my son actually helped me do our curriculum because he, again, is a kinesthetic learner and he is a project kid. He loves project-based learning. So for, like for instance, for English, his final product for the entire year will be him writing a book. He already has 1 chapter done. He's late because it's October. But by June 1st, he will have written a book. And that's his project-based learning activity for English. Now, what am I looking for in this book? Everything that we talk about in English. He's incorporating vocabulary. He's incorporating narrative writing. He's incorporating punctuation. He's incorporating spelling and all of that. And so that's going to be his project because he does project-based learning. Now, in saying all of that, he still is tested. He's not tested as much as public school. And I'm talking about standardized testing. They are standardized testing, testing a lot. In public school, you got this every 6 weeks, you got that. We're not doing that. Homeschool says that you can standardize test once a year. So we're doing the CAT exam once a year. I just ordered for Joshua the CAT exam. It's like what is it called? It's a practice exam. So I ordered that for him, the practice exam, so he can see what's going to be on the exam. We do the practice questions, we do the practice scenarios, and then when it's time for the CAT test, which I will administer to him in the spring, he'll be okay to do it. I noticed with my son that he was stressing about all this. He was stressing out about all this testing in public school. I mean, it was a real big issue. Where, you know, his questions to me the first week of homeschool was, so what grade did I get? So what grade did I get? Did I get an A? Is that an A? How many points did I get? And I was like, man, I'm gonna need you to stop thinking so much about the points and the grade, and I want to make sure that you retain the information. So the testing was an issue. He had anxiety. He hated the end of the year testing, the end of course test. He hated him. He hated him. So we don't do that. We don't do as much testing in homeschool. Now I do assessments. I do informal assessments. I do interim assessments, and of course the summative assessment is the CAT test. And then, you know, he has, you know, quizzes. We do tests. We did a test 2 weeks ago, and it was oral. And he was like, "That's it?" And I said, "Yeah, you have mastered the objective, and we don't need to write it out. You just talked it out." So again, homeschooling gives you the liberty to formulate your scope and sequence of instruction the way that you want to as a parent. What is it that you want your child to learn? I realize as a parent that my son is a math whiz. He loves math. He can do math with his eyes closed. He's great at what he does as far as math is concerned. His deficit is reading and reading comprehension. Now, he can read, but when I ask him what he read, that's the issue. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing math if he can get that. I'm going to spend the bulk of our time and the majority of our time doing reading comprehension. We read a passage a day. We extract the supporting details, the main idea. I mean, it's every day. That's why I said at the beginning, you have to be consistent. And he'll say to me, "Why are we doing this every day?" You know, the first 2 or 3 weeks, oh my God, it was rough, because he was like, "Well, this is not what we do. This is not what we do in real school. This is not what we do in public school." And then finally, probably around the end of August, "Your school is hard. I want to go back to public school." That was a compliment. I wasn't offended. Okay. My school is hard, and he wanted to go back to public school. So he does get assessed. And sometimes the assessments are oral. All right. So you've applied for your homeschool license and you have it. So now you have to decide your scope and sequence of your instruction. I would advise you to, again, research, talk to someone. I have some examples here too. So let's see. I said one of the deficits that he has is reading. He doesn't like to read. I make him read at least 30 minutes a day. He doesn't like it. He does now. But in the beginning, it was those chapter books and bring your book home. Let's make sure you read. What did you read? And so I said, okay, let me do something different. So we took a trip to Ollie's. We love Ollie's. We love Books A Million. We love Barnes and Noble. We go to the bookstore and I say to him, "You pick out what you want to read. I don't care if it's a magazine, it'll be a newspaper." He seems to like these Marvel comic books. Do you see this? I got this book from Ollie's, $4.99, and he loves it. Now, the good thing about these, okay, not only is it cartoonish, but he still has to explain to me what's going on and why. I love to ask questions. I always say, "So what do you think is going on through this character's mind? Or what do you think would happen next? Or what if," he loves it, but this is the material that he likes to read. Now, we've done several dates at the public library. It depends. It depends on what the subject is, the subject area is. If it's sports, if it's science, he likes those type of books. But novels, there was a series that he liked, and I can't remember the name of it, but he likes reading stuff like this. Okay. For science, and we do science, we don't do as much science as we do reading, but we do science. And what I found to work for him is this company called Kiwi and Company. they actually send you every month a science kit. It's called Tinker Crate. So they actually put together science kits, and it comes with not only instructions, but it comes with material, reading material, and you talk about the lesson, okay? And once you talk about the lesson, this particular lesson is on the solar system. So once you talk about the solar system and you talk about the lesson, you actually have this whole crate of things that you have to create. Now, I'm finding for him, it's beautiful. He loves that. You know why? Because I told you at the beginning, he's a kinesthetic learner. He likes to work with his hands. And so as we are working and talking, we are also learning. I think what homeschool does for parents is allows you to see that you can learn in various ways. And it doesn't have to be in a book, or a notebook, or you're actually sitting down with that type of curriculum. Now, in saying that, I do love that type of curriculum because it is beneficial, and I'm all about not recreating the wheel. Okay. So even though I admire parents who actually create curriculum and all that, and I do a little bit of that, there are several books that I have purchased just because they work. Now, for our homeschool scope and sequence and academic instruction, I do adopt Common Core objectives, and goals, and I'm gonna tell you why. There may be one day that Josh wants to go back to public school. I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure that he's actually learning and not being passed from grade to grade, okay? Which is what I felt was going on. So if we discover that, okay, so this is the way that you're learning and this is great, so let's take what we've learned and you can apply it when you go back to public school, I'm all for it. So we actually do Common Core curriculum, and I like these books by Spectrum. That's the name of the company, Spectrum. And again, he's in grade 6. He's in 6th grade. These are excellent books. This is an excellent curriculum, Spectrum. So I have his reading book, his spelling book, and I think I have some math. Oh yeah, this. It's Common Core, Language Arts, and Math. And so it has all these quizzes in it, which actually lets me know if he actually has the objective, if he has the goal, and if it's time to move on. So this is beautiful. One of the things that I love that we've incorporated in our homeschool is devotion time. So I picked up these, and we talk about being a Christian, and we do devotionals, and I love it. We have time to just dissect the word. It's very simple though, because you don't want a kid to bite off more than they could chew. So like for instance, this particular lesson is on worship. So we talk about worship. We talk about what worship means, and that's on day 50. We're not there yet. And then we write a journal about worship, okay? Very simple. There's a devotional here, and it's a paragraph. So I have him read the paragraph to me, and I have him tell me what that means, and we talk about it. We go to the scripture, and we read the scripture, and then we say the prayer at the end. So we do have a mini Bible study and devotional time, but my intent is not to have a Christian homeschool, okay? Because we are Christians, we are believers. My intention is to round his character to now be the Christian, okay? I don't want you just doing the Christian work and then all the Christian little activities. I want you to be the Christian. So this homeschool is instilling character. We're on one verse the whole year, and that's the fruits of the Spirit. Like, I want you to get all of that inside of you. I want you to become the word. So that's how we do our Christian part, or our believers part of our homeschool. So we do some fun things. He actually has an opportunity to work with his dad. His dad owns a car wash, and so he's instilling character and work ethic. Of course, I own a counseling business, and so he's here. His chores every day is to vacuum the floor, do the toilets, and he sweeps off the front stoop, and he makes sure that all of my bags are in every time I get out of the car, or he packs the car when we leave. I'm saying practical things that I didn't say that he didn't learn in public school, but I wasn't seeing that. I wasn't seeing what he was learning there actually manifest in real life. So I wanted to take control of that. Now I want to go back to last week's Dr. M's table when we talked about arrested development. Remember, I said that parenting is the most important assignment that you will ever have. I have to take responsibility for my child and what he learns. He turns 12 in January. Remember, I said from age 12 to 21, this is the stage of what? Independence. So from birth to age 12, it's up to me to model, to teach, and to allow him to demonstrate what I've taught him. And so, again, I didn't feel that what he was learning as far as character was concerned in public school was emanating in real life. And so I felt like I had to take control of that back as his parent. All right. So here are some typical questions. I had a couple of inboxes. I don't want this scope to be very long, this Dr. M's table to be very long, but let me answer this question about curriculum. I think I just showed you the curriculum that I use, Spectrum. But this is asking me, do you pay for the curriculum? So yes, again, you could pay, and I did. I think these books are like maybe $8 a piece. No, $11.99. So these books are $11.99 a piece. You can get them at Books A Million. You can order them off Amazon. I actually went to a homeschool store in Fayetteville. There's a homeschool store in Fayetteville. They have the whole scope, curriculum, sequence. They have a whole lot of stuff. So I actually got these books from there. And we don't actually work in them every day. It depends on what we're doing. Okay. So we do reading, we do writing, we do spelling every day. We don't do math every day. Okay, I'll be right there. Sorry, my client is here. We don't do math every day because, again, he gets math. He understands math. So we definitely do reading, writing, and spelling every day. I talked about the assessments. I conduct formative, interim, and summative assessments. We're taking the CAT exam. That is our summative assessment for the year. Oh, the hours. Okay, so people have questions about the hours, and they ask me, how long do you homeschool? As little as 2 hours a day. You can do as much as 8. I don't think a child should be in school for 8 hours a day. That's just my personal opinion. We do as little as 2, as much as 4. We don't do all 5 days of the week. We do 4 days of the week, and we're off on Fridays. There are 2 days of instruction. That's me actually doing teaching and instruction. I do that for about 2 hours on Monday, which is today, 2 hours on Thursday. On Tuesday and Wednesday, he demonstrates to me what we talked about. Thursday, we do a new instruction. On Fridays is our field trip day, our catch-up day, and our day off. We don't do 8 hours a day, every day. Not necessary, in my opinion. According to the objectives and the goals and the standards that I've set for us to learn in this entire year, he's on target, he's on task, and we do it like that. Okay, so helpful websites. North Carolina Department of Non-Public Instruction, very helpful to you. Time for Learning is a good website for you to use. And then there's a website called Academic Excellence. And this is a website that I've used to order badges, because when you're in homeschool, you actually get into the museums and the aquariums. You get into those things for free, as long as you can prove that you are a homeschool. So I've ordered us some badges that actually, just like you are in public school, you have your little IDs or whatever, we have those. And I also ordered the CAT test from Academic Excellence. All right, that is my quick Dr. M's table on homeschool. I think I went very fast. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? I forgot about this. There's also this cool set of books that I got from Walmart for $11.68. And this says everything you need to know or ace in math in one big fat notebook. And this is for the entire middle school. Now, he loves this book, and it's so cool. It's got illustrations in it. It's got how to do things, the fractions and the basics. Now, we do use this because this is for the entire middle school. Now, and I think too, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but last year my son was in 5th grade, and that was his first year of middle school. Personally, I think that's too young to be in middle school, and I think that's what happened with him. He got overwhelmed by the middle school experience, period. We had some emotional issues as far as, who said what so and so is doing. I mean, it was just very ridiculous stuff to me. And so I felt like as a parent, I needed to rebuild him. I needed to build his confidence. I needed to help him solidify his character. And I needed to make sure that he was learning the basics of everything that he needs to know for life, not just for a test. So this year is going great, like I said, and this primarily should be your first year of middle school, which is 6th grade. But there are 4 of these books that I picked up. One is math, one is English, one is social studies, and one is science. And they, again, are everything that you need to ace in one big fat notebook in middle school. So it covers 6th grade through 8th grade. And so I love going through here and just to make sure, oh, okay, so we do know that. Oh, okay, so we did cover that. So I feel very confident. I think what I wanted to get across to parents is you don't have to be a PhD. You only have to have a high school diploma or an equivalent to teach your child. You just have to have patience, passion, love, and consistency. It would be very easy for me to tell my son, no, we're not doing it today because I don't feel like it. I can't do that. I can't base his learning on how I feel. So we have to be consistent. Now, homeschooling does afford me the ability to homeschool him anywhere. So if I had a conference, I take him with me and we can still do our work. Or I can make the executive decision to say, hey, we're not doing homeschool today. We'll do that next week. It's very flexible, but you still have to be consistent because you don't want your child to get into the habit of, well, I'll just say my stomach hurts and we won't have school today, because that defeats the purpose of you taking them out of public school. You still want them to learn, right? And my son will tell you, like I said, he thinks my school is harder than public school, and maybe it is. But I think what happens is he probably won't like me saying this, but he was a little lazy. And so when you say, I don't get it, he didn't even try to get it. So I love him enough to say, okay, so I'm sitting here with you, but I want to see how you approach it. I don't want to tell him what to do. I want to see what he knows. How do you approach it? One of the things that I found with him, my son, is that I had to teach him how to think critically. He has no critical thinking skills. It's very, linear. It's not, no critical thinking skills. So now he has the tools to assist him in thinking critically because I've helped him get that. So I would feel more comfortable if years from now he said, hey, can I go to public school and high school? Sure. Because I know now you know how to think and you know how to think for yourself. It's not about with the crowd. It's not about for a test. It's for life. Okay? All right. Any questions? Any questions? All right. Let's see here. Hey, Sean. Hey, Apostle Arlene. Okay, guys. My client is here. It's 11:24. You've been awesome. So next Monday, Dr. M's table at 10 o'clock. Somebody wanted me to do a part 2 on Arrested Development. We'll see. We'll see what we're going to do next Monday at 10 o'clock. All right. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Remember, I love Mondays. I hope you are discovering that Mondays are great and make it a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. Peace.